Hello my loyal companions and welcome back to the channel. In this video I want to have a little bit of a rogue discussion with you and talk about the balancing within the game and kind of answer the question, is Rogue Company a balanced game? If you do enjoy the content on this channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos that come out. But for now, let's get into it. I want to start by talking about what I mean by balanced and balanced gameplay. A balanced game is when all the options that you can choose from allow you to win with just as much likelihood as another option. It doesn't mean that everything can do the exact same job as everything else, because that would just lead to really stale gameplay, and it doesn't mean that some things aren't better in certain circumstances than other things. A well-balanced game will allow you to change up your playstyle and be adaptable and find a solution that helps you win the game no matter what the circumstances that come up are. Doesn't mean a trench is now going to become a fantastic attacking hard breacher just like Dima and that you can use him in that way. It just means that there are counters and different ways of playing that allow you to still win the game. Balancing within games is difficult for developers to get right. There's normally always a rogue who does better, or a weapon that does better, or a map that's just easier for defenders. But as a blanket statement, I actually think Rogue Company does quite well at trying to manage this balancing, and for all the games I've played recently, has the fewest balancing issues out of any of them, by a long way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into the different areas and talk about the specific balancing within them. I'm going to start with the difference between attacking and defending. Firstly, if you haven't seen any of my guides about attacking and defending on my channel, make sure you go check them out after this video. But basically, Demolition specifically and all the objective game modes have an element of attacking and defending to them. And one thing that's really important for games like this to balance is that the attacking side doesn't feel too strong or too weak compared to the defending side and vice versa. When it comes to Rogue Company, I actually think they manage this quite well. No matter what side I'm on, I don't feel overly disadvantaged or overly advantaged. I feel kind of like I can do what I need to do in that to win the rounds. This may mean I have to change up my character pool, maybe change up my weapon, maybe change up my particular playstyle, but if I'm adaptable like I am at the game, that's not too difficult. An example of how the developers are actually quite on it with this and paying attention is when they were first thinking of bringing out Vice, they actually gave a notice saying that Vice seemed too defender heavy, so the defenders had too much of an advantage, and they added different avenues to go to help attackers. It shows that they are really conscious of this balancing, and I think they've done it throughout all the maps, and they've actually nailed it quite well. The next area of balancing I want to talk about is the rogue design and their abilities and kit. Character design is something that's quite difficult to get right because you don't want one rogue to do a certain role better than another rogue who's meant to do the same role. You want them all to have unique characteristics that allow them to do it in a slightly different way but just as effectively. And you also don't want rogues who are meant to counter that to feel like they can't because one rogue just does it way too well. It is quite a difficult thing to get right and weigh up correctly, but honestly when I think to all the rogues, there's none who stand out to me as being absolutely broken just because of their initial kit. Let's take some examples. Let's take our flankers. So we have Lancer, Shaq, Ronin and Scorch. All of these really good 1v1 characters who all have a unique different way of trying to do it. Lancer moves really quickly and gets to a position in good time, and she has a roll mechanic so that she's really good in these 1v1s. Shaq can overheal. Scorch has her fire rounds, which gives her additional damage, and Ronin generally is just awesome. They all do really unique things to help them in these 1v1 situations, but none of them do it in a way that means the other ones can't stop them. They're also countered by zone control rogues when they do go for the flank. People like Trench and Vi and Anvil can hold them off really, really well in their different means. And they all kind of do that in their own way again, but really effectively. And that doesn't mean that those flankers can't find a way around it. They can flank from a different angle. They can use some of their gadgets and abilities to disrupt and try and breach onto the site. Everything is just kind of works really well. It's kind of like this own ecosystem of how things work. This rogue counters this rogue, and this rogue counters this rogue, and this ability counters that rogue's ability, and things like that. And it just works really well. There's none that stand out to me as being, wow, yeah, every time they're picked, it's just a free win. The one I get all the time is Phantom. People want to say that, but if you play against a Phantom, you know not to overpeak her and to try and get away to get in close range of her. That's the biggest counter to her, and every rogue can do that. Even another Phantom can do that. I see a lot of people talking on Twitter and other social medias about how this rogue is broken, how this rogue is just an easy rogue to play. Well, that's not really true. Every rogue has different capabilities, and if you learn them and get used to them, you can play them in a bunch of different ways to be adaptable to any situation. Likewise, you should be adaptable and try and find a way to counter any rogue that the enemy have chosen. For example, if they've gone Scorch, Lancer, Shaq, maybe play something with a bit of zone control, maybe play something with a bit of range that you can hold them off at, maybe play something with some utility just to slow them down. There are ways around it, and if you're smart and you're thinking when you play, it's not that difficult to figure out. Let me know in the comments, would you guys like to see a how to counter this rogue series? If you would, let me know. This also leads me slightly on to how different rogues counter each other really well. I've mentioned the flanker versus zone control difference, but you've also got people with their innate kit who are really good at countering people. For example, let's take Dallas. Dallas is really strong, his ability is really good, but is countered by the perk Cloaked, which is available to a lot of rogues who would benefit from not being seen all the time. You have someone like Saint, who is countered by things like gadgets and EMP drones and any sort of disruption that can stop his drone. You have people like Ronin, who completely countered Talon's radar dart because she doesn't appear on UAV. And you have hard breachers such as Glitch, who can absolutely destroy things such as anvil barricades, trench wires, Ronin ballistic knives, anything. And that's a really good mechanic, and actually a really underrated mechanic. The way that they all just work together and the way that they all just flow really well within each other is a really great mechanic. It doesn't feel super biased one way or the other. I just can't think of a rogue standout who is like, damn, they're way too strong. Another area of balancing that is quite important and actually probably the hardest to get right is weapon balancing. And in this case, I kind of have two variations of my opinion. One is that on the majority of cases, the weapons are really well balanced. They're really effective in the sense that if they're meant for range, they aren't very good up close. They have a lot of recoil, they haven't got great hip fire. If they're really good up close, they really have a good damage fall off at range. The different weapon variations allow for a bunch of counterplay. You have shotguns versus SMGs, you have snipers versus DMRs, ARs versus DMRs, ARs versus SMGs. Again, like the rogues, they all flow really well with each other. And on that point, the weapons that are assigned to the different rogues tend to also be quite balanced. Guns are matched with rogues for the purpose they're meant to be. Longer range rogues are equipped with longer range weapons. Shorter range rogues who have to get up in your face are equipped with shorter range weapons, and that's a really nice balance. And also, if you go through and look at my weapon statistic guides, such as the best AR, best SMG, and best DMR, you'll see that the best weapons don't tend to be paired with the best rogues in terms of my tier list that I've given. Anvil, who I've rated a C tier rogue, the only C tier rogue, has the best AR/LMG in the game in terms of time to kill and statistics. Talon, who is a really good flex pick for long range versus short range, may have the best SMG, but then his DMR for the longer range is the worst DMR. They've really thought about how these weapons are important and how the different caliber of weapon matches the caliber of the rogue. And in this sense, I can't argue with their balancing. There could be some tweaks. For example, the LMG could be a little less impactful. The shotguns perhaps could be a little less damage in certain ranges. And maybe Visor AR could do a little bit more damage at different times or have a slightly reduced recoil pattern. Same with the SLC submachine gun. There are little tweaks you can make here and there, but for I think the most part, it's generally pretty good, and I don't see anyone struggling with a certain weapon too much. The only category of weapon I'd say are the most lackluster are the shotguns, but I think that's pretty much the same across most games. The last area of balancing I do want to touch on is the balancing between having solos playing and having a team 4-man squad going into the same game. This is the one area where it is not very fair on the solo player with the random teammates. There's a massive imbalance there in terms of ability to coordinate and win rounds. I'm not saying solos can't beat teams, they can, but it's less likely and it's generally not going to happen, particularly when you don't know the skill of your teammates. At the moment, all we have is solos, so I feel like we feel that impact a lot more because there is no place for teams to go competitively. But I think when the rank system comes out, as long as they split it in some way and do like solo duos and then teams as two different categories to queue up in, I think that would be good. It would solve a lot of the issues and maybe Demolition will be a little bit more enjoyable. Okay then guys, that's going to take us to the end of the video, and I really want to know what you think of the different balancing things I've talked about within Rogue Company. Personally, I think the game is really well balanced. I think they do a great job. I think the devs listen to us and to what we want and try and balance it accordingly. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. You can also come follow me on twitch.tv/RELENTLESS to see live game commentaries. And if you go into the description, you'll find a link to my Discord where you can come join my community. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. And remember, be loyal, be brave, be relentless, and I'll see you in the next video.